If you think that wax seals can only be used on the outside of envelopes, this video is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be sharing the Altenew March 2025 release, which includes brand new wax seals and wax beads. But not only that, I want to share a bunch of different ways to use wax seals right on your cards. This way you can get more bang for your buck and not just use them to seal up envelopes. This video is also part of the Altenew March video hop. There's tons of giveaways to be had, so be sure to stay to the end of the video and I'll let you know how to enter to win. But for now, let's check out some of these new Altenew supplies and use them to make some cards. Let's start by checking out the new wax seals. First of all, this is the wax seal warmer. The kit comes with the warmer and the spoon. You provide your own tea light. Then there's a handle that you can screw any of the wax seal stamps onto the handle. So here is the gift bow wax seal. The other one that I use in this video is not actually released. Sorry about that. I did not know it was not going to be released, but there are other florals available. So I'll link to all the wax seal stamps that are available right now. These are the beads. They come in these little containers, which is perfect. And you just place, I like to start with 4 to 5 beads, depending on the size of the stamp. Since I'm starting with kind of a large square stamp, I'm starting with 5 beads, and I'll speed up that melt time for you because watching wax melt is kind of like watching water boil, except I find it very relaxing. Now I'll pour out the beads that are melted onto a silicone mat. The silicone mat is from Altenew, and it is heat resistant, so you can just pour that hot wax onto the silicone. It won't stick and it will protect your work surface. And then I'll just place the wax seal stamp on top, and you don't have to press it down, just lay it on top of the puddle of wax. Once it's dry, simply remove the stamp and then peel off the wax seal from the silicone. I'm giving it kind of a gentle touch so that I don't ruin it because it is still a little bendy, but you can see I was able to peel it off no problem. It's all intact, and look at that dimension of the stamp. I love that you see all the details of the bow. Next, let's take a look at the release items that I'll be working with. This die set is called the Fun Little Envelopes die set. You can see there are small envelopes, there are envelope liners, there are stamps, there are seals that you can use. So there's a real variety of items that you can create. Next up, we have the Zero Waste Berries and Branches die. I love how you can use the background and the positive pieces, and that's where the zero waste comes in. So this is a great die set to play with. Next, we have Magnolia Dreams. It's a 3D embossing folder, and the Delicate Magnolia die set. It's a keyhole system, making it really easy. This is the Quill and Inkwell die set, which is also keyhole, and I'll show you how to use those. This is the Scripted Sentiments die set. You get shadows and words. Next, we have Old City Doors layering die set. This is a really cool and unique set. And then we have the Luminous Diamonds rings. This is a single layer stencil. And this month's subscription that I'm working with is the Craft Your Life kit. It is the Flower Arch Craft Your Life kit. So you can see there's a 3D embossing folder, large stamp set, die set, and stencil set available in this set of subscription, and it's all flowers and arches, and it's just a really beautiful set, and you can create a lot of very unique images. Here are some of the new fresh dye inks. There's a blue set that's called Marine Life. You can also get enamel dots in the same colors. Then there's an orange set that's called Tropical Tango. Love those oranges. There's also 4 new yellows, and this set is also available in enamel dots, and it's citrus punch. So for this first card, let's start working with those fun little envelopes dies. So you can see I have a bunch cut out. These are all cut out of Altenew cardstock colors. These are some of my favorite colors. I like the lights and brights and just kind of a fun pastel rainbow of colors here. So you can fold up the envelopes. You can add liners like I mentioned before. So there's basically a lot of different accessories in this set. There's numbers of envelopes that are different sizes and shapes, and then the flaps are different shapes. So I decided to do a little bit of a variety. A couple of the envelopes I'll have the outside showing with the stamps. One I have the little wax seal showing, and one I have open with the liner showing. So then I use the scripted sentiments. I'm not using the shadows, just the words sending love in similar colors. And then I'll place 4 envelopes around that sentiment in the center. And these little hearts are from those little pretend wax seals. So for this first card using wax seals, I'm actually tucking it into one of the envelopes, and it's just kind of a fun way to add a little something extra to that envelope. For this next card, we'll use the Zero Waste Berries and Branches die. So I like to place it on top of an A2 piece of cardstock, colorful cardstock, and then cut it out of 2 different colors so that you have leaves and berries at least in 2 different colors. You can cut it out of more colors if you want. You'll have extra leaves and berries to play with. For this one, I wanted to keep it simple. So 2 colors, the green and then the blue for these berries. And then I have another one of those fun little envelopes and an envelope liner there. So I'll adhere that together, and then I'll kind of close up the bottom flaps of the envelope so that you can see the top is open and that flap is up at the top. So another really fun shape of the envelope. I like that curve at the top. It's very fancy and cute. So for this card, I'm creating this envelope as if it is going to hold all of those leaves and stems of berries inside of it. And then I'll use the wax seal to pretend to hold everything into place. So it'll be right on the envelope, just like it would be on a larger envelope on the outside, but this one is kind of more of a fun look of holding those leaves and berry stems into place, and it mimics the colors of those as well. I used both green and blue wax and just kind of stirred it a little bit so that it marbleized, and then finished this off with the hello sentiment from the scripty sentiments. Other way that I like to use wax seals is over thread. So for this card, I'll use that 3D Magnolia embossing folder, and I'll just add a little touch of pink ink on top of it, just so that some of those lines of the magnolias really stand out. I do love white on white as far as the backgrounds, but I thought a little hint of ink would be pretty. Now for the layering die set, here is the keyhole for the petals, and you can see that little number 1 that was stamped on it. So that's the first layer. Then I'll put a little glue around the keyhole, and then I'll put the number 2 on top, lining up the keyhole so that you can see right through it still. And then just keep going as many layers as there are. And that's the keyhole system. It's absolutely brilliant, makes it super easy to line up flowers, which is not my forte for sure. And even I can do this, so I know you can too. As far as the center, it lines up on the keyhole, and then there's a cover so that you cover up the open keyhole and you don't see that keyhole once it's all done. So I cut down that embossed panel to 4 by 5 1/4 and wrap some gold thread around it. And then I'll pop up the magnolia die cut that I created right on top of those threads. Then I'll place some liquid adhesive on the threads and tuck that wax seal so it looks like it is holding those threads in place. And once again, I'll use one of the scripted sentiments. I love that hugs die, so I use that a lot, and I love it with kind of gold foil cardstock. It's just a fun way to add an embellishment to your card. So here is that subscription set, the flower arch. Here's the huge stamp, and then I'll die cut it out and place the die cut into my Stamp Wheel 2.0, and then I'll start using the stencils. So lots of layers for the stencils so that you can get really realistic looking flowers and to have lots of layers and gradients of color. There's even different layers for the leaves. So it's like a lighter color and then a darker color for sort of the accents or veins of those leaves. And it just creates a beautiful image without having to know anything about coloring at all. I embossed some white cardstock and it creates that door with the stone around it. And then there's a stencil just for that piece as well. So I colored in the stones. I die cut out the little arch, iron arch at the top of that. And then I thought I would ink blend the door a different color, but I actually decided to cut it out, to emboss it, and then fussy cut out the door so that it would look a little bit neater because my inking was not super neat. I couldn't get it just over the door. Then I'll use some Altenew foam adhesive and pop up the flowers, that flower arch right on top of this door. Now it's a big flower, so I'm only going to use a little less than half of this. I'll flip it over and trim it off, and that will give me a whole other piece to use on a whole other card. So when you look at these large stamps, don't get overwhelmed and think, oh, I have to use this whole thing on a card and I don't want to create a large card or anything like that. You can just use pieces of it on your A2 cards if you want. I also stamped and embossed a sentiment that says my door is always open. I really love that sentiment. And then I kind of placed the wax seal on the door as if it's like a door knocker or an embellishment on the door itself. Another way to use the wax seals is to use it so that it matches the theme of the card. So whenever I think of quills and inkwells, I also think of seals because those were the way that they used to close up the letters when they were writing with quills and inkwells and things like that. So parchment seals were very much in use at the time. So I thought that those three things would go together. So I have two quills here. One has a tip like for the pen and the other one is just the quill itself. And then you have the inkwell, which is another one of those keyhole die sets. So look at that different type of keyhole. Sometimes there'll be different shapes so that you can tell the two sets apart from each other, so you don't try and glue one flower to the wrong flower kind of thing. I have an A2 piece of colorful cardstock and matted a 4x5¼ piece on top, and then I'm using some Altenew foam tape to pop up the way to go sentiment as well as the inkwell, and then I have one of the quills glued down to the card itself, and then the other one popped up. And I just realized that I forgot the exclamation point in the way to go. So I'm gonna have to go back and grab that exclamation point and adhere it down. So now that I've used wax seals in 5 different ways on 5 cards, I did have a couple more supplies that I wanted to share with you that I'm not necessarily going to put a wax seal on, but these are the Old City doors. This is a layering die set. This is not a keyhole set, but there are instructions on the die set itself that will show you how to line things up. This part of the door has 3 little panels, and I thought I was going to have a real hard time lining them up. So I did take the piece that they were die cut out of and temporarily placed it back inside the door so that I could put adhesive behind the 3 little panels and then peel that piece off. Now I accidentally did peel off that 3rd little panel, so I had to put it back down and make sure it was pressed in really good so that it was adhered down. But that's how I was able to line those up without any problems. And for the door handle, you could cut out a small tiny little piece of metallic foil cardstock, but I decided just to use a little marker to color it in. But I love this sentiment too. When one door closes, another one opens. These are just some great heartfelt sentiments that work really well also with the dies and stamps and stuff. So I did want to show you this stencil because I really think it is bold and magnificent, and I wanted to showcase the orange inks as well. I was able to stamp one of the sentiments that's kind of one of those label sticker sentiments right on top of that inked background. I think it looks fun. And then I'm adding the enamel dots in a gradient of colors on that different color background. So I have the light, the medium, and the dark colors in line with the inking. I absolutely love wax seals. I find them very relaxing to make. They're just fun to make and they look great on cards too. So to enter this month's giveaway for the YouTube Hop, just comment below what your thoughts are on these new wax seals. I'd love to hear. The rest of the details about the giveaway will be in the YouTube description box under this video. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon.